My name is Dr. Mcayla Sarno. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I'm an E.M.D.R specialist. I'm a brain training expert, creator of several online programs, guided courses. But my mission is always helping people get unstuck, finding new ways to take old concepts and explain them in a way that makes sense to people, that enlightens people, that inspires people or motivates people. And I love it. I'm addicted to it. It's the most fulfilling work. But I wanted to bring up a topic that was on one of my last broadcasts that somebody mentioned. So let's talk about some of the things that influence the way that we think and influence kind of the responses we have, influence some of the things we do, and that's kind of the topic. And we can get in such a stuck way of thinking, which is why change is so hard. And I know that people, I see clients and I see students and I coach people every day. And, I talk a lot about becoming aware, gaining a deeper level of awareness. And I know it's so frustrating for people, but I also see people in terms of changing these, the way that we think or respond or circumstances in our life. I also see how we all keep ourselves stuck. We do this, but we don't do it intentionally. Please give me that again. It went by so fast. We're talking about how we get stuck in certain patterns of thinking, how we get stuck in bad habits. I almost forgot my title, to be honest with you, but I knew the topic. How we get stuck and why it's so hard to change. And I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a pass, and you're going to love this. You're going to love this pass because you can't help it. People can't help it. We can't help it. And I'm going to explain why. And I'm also going to give you a solution of how you change this. Because as I was saying, I see it every day. And it's kind of like the client who, the rule is, yeah, but I know that logically, other people, the way that they think or things that they do, or I know that it doesn't make somebody else. This works for someone else. I know that other people can't define other people, but when it comes to me, it's just not the case. It's different for me. I could give somebody else advice, and I know that wouldn't make sense, if I were to tell somebody else this, because other people are different, but not me. I'm an isolated case. And for me, these things I'm telling myself, it's true. For me, I can't make these changes. For me, it's different. And we always give it to other people, but we don't for ourselves. And we keep ourselves here. It's like almost a conscious denial, because we can be aware of it. But then again, here's where you're going to get your pass because you're not. Okay, the brain does this for you. The brain keeps us looping. You, as I've said, and if I could find 20 other ways to emphasize this, you are not one with your brain. Okay, your brain is separate from you. So it's not that you're lazy. It's not that you lack motivation. It's not that you just want to be difficult. It's not that you are purposely trying to self-sabotage things in your life. You can't help it because your brain is separate and doing it for you. We have to become aware of that. Otherwise, we take things verbatim. Does that make sense? We just take what we hear, what we know, the things we do, our little laws, we take it verbatim. We don't challenge it. We don't have a reason to challenge it. But I'm going to make an analogy that might make sense. So for those just joining, again, my name is Dr. Mcayla Sarno. I'm a brain training expert, and I'm talking about how do we change bad habits, thoughts that we have that are just very ingrained thoughts that we want to change, because we can change cognitively. Okay, I'm going to think this way, but it's not true, and we can't change certain things as much as we want to, and this is why. And as I mentioned, I'm going to give you a pass. You can't help it. Your brain is wired that way. it's directing you, and it's based on your brain directs everything that you do for you. You're not deciding. To put it another way, your brain is deciding. You're not calling the shots. Your brain is calling the shots. And it's doing that based on all the information that it holds. It's making its best informed decisions and directing you based on what it knows. Does that make sense? And that's why it's so frustrating when you want to change things. If you're not changing your brain, if you're not adding information to your brain, how will it inform you differently? You know, our brains aren't Google. It's not a vast, endless amount of information, but yet, why are so many people skipping so many steps in their lives? I'll have a client come in or a student, and it's like most of the people I work with are very highly self-motivated. And they come in and they're ready to do the work and they're ready to make the changes, and all they can do, and I get this because I was the same way, is they're looking at that end goal and they can't get off the end goal and they can't help it. They're so ready to skip and get to that end result. They can't help it. That's where they want to go, but they don't get there because their brain's not going to inform them there. Here's the best way to know that your brain is resisting you. If you're trying to get into a future place and you're not focusing on the present, then your brain is directing you. It's directing you to not look in the present. If you're looking in the future and you're missing present steps, then your brain is resisting you. It's directing you. You're not one with it. Which is why it's so, you know, you think about all the programs you have, all the things that you've, the seminars you've gone to, and how much of those programs, how much of that information have you completed? Have you gone through everything? Or do you just keep buying more programs? Do you just keep doing more things? Are you just in a hurry? You're skipping the initial present place. Your brain's doing that for you. Okay, so Wiley, I understand totally. Good. Okay. So it's kind of like when we have a car that runs really bad and, you know, there's something wrong with it. We don't know what it is. And maybe it pulls to the right. Maybe it's because the alignment's so off. It's got these certain tweaks and things that are happening. So what do? We learn how to drive it better. We get used to the fact that, okay, my car always does this, so I got to do this. I got to, you know, we find little ways. And then we also learn, because our car drives a certain way, we don't want to get in an accident. So we learn about the other drivers too. And, you know, because it's never us. It's what's dangerous on the road is the other people. That's who we got to look out for, not us. So we learn how to drive the car better. We learn about the other drivers, and we do everything we can to try to make the situation better with this really badly run car, right? Oops. So by becoming a better driver, by learning about the other drivers, this is going to help the situation. Yes? Is that going to help the situation? But by becoming a better driver, by learning and being able to predict other people on the road, it's not solving the problem, but that's what we do. We focus outwardly. We skip steps. We skip the most important step. Focus on the present. Fighting depression. Okay, Sean. Okay, listen to the end of this broadcast, and I'm going to help you I'm going to give you the solution to that. Okay, so we skip the most crucial steps, and that's no different than many, many years of therapy, which so many people have gone. It's like, you know, and even I had gone through that process with years and years and years of therapy. And okay, this is great. So I've learned about these other people. I know why they do these things. I get it. I understand it all now. And it all makes sense. And I know it's not my fault, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thoughts are still there. The feelings are still there, and the triggers are still there. Doesn't that drive you crazy? Isn't that frustrating? You go through all that work and you've got, you might have seen a tremendous change, but the core issue, the car's still driving badly. Does that make sense? And that's because what we're focusing on is the other people. So in order to change the way the car drives, you got to look under the hood and you've got to change the motor. You got to add to the motor. So let's say, for example, you look under the hood, you make adjustments. This car's been running bad. What if you were to add oil to the motor? Then you wouldn't have to be thinking so much about the other people. You wouldn't have to worry about how am I going to change the way I do these things. If you add oil to the motor, then you don't have to take action. The motor is going to direct the car and inform it better. It's going to drive better. Does it make sense? Now, if you don't focus on the motor, what happens? If you continue to focus outwardly, if you continue to just keep readjusting yourself, well, the transmission is going to overheat and it's going to crack, and you're going to be going through the middle of an intersection in downtown LA, which was me one year, and your steering wheel will lock and you're going to run into another car and you won't have the ability to steer the direction of your life because you didn't put an add to the motor. So it's where we focus. So where am I going with all this? We have to add, in order to change, because your brain is separate, we have to add our own oil to our brain, which is information, bits of information. If you want to do things differently, you've got to add information that will inform your brain to do things differently. Otherwise, if you skip that part, then your brain you'll keep doing the same things. Nothing will change. Why would it? Your brain doesn't have any information outside of the information it has, which is why you're doing the things you're doing to begin with. The only way your brain, separate from you, can inform you differently, can change the way you do things and think and respond and feel and et cetera, is you've got to give it more information. And that's what we miss doing. I think we focus so much on how to change the way we do things, how to learn about other people and how to navigate around them. And we learn really how to just survive in life. You want to live, you got to add oil to the motor and stop skipping steps. Okay, I know a lot of people, they want to get to, I've got my in-session program, I've got my unstuck program. In-session's a prerequisite to unstuck. And that's on purpose because the installations, which is a brain training program, they're much more effective when you go through in-session first. But we always want to skip. Everybody wants to go right to unstuck. And it's half as effective when you do that. But we're always in a hurry. We want to skip. You've got that in session is adding bits of information to your brain. And you can do that on your own. This is something that we can all do, but we stop ourselves when we get to this place where we, our values, they stand for other people, but not for us. You can't help that, but you can change it by becoming aware that you're doing it and adding information to your brain, because you won't change, but your brain will change you. Am I making sense with this? Is this clear, what I'm saying? Because sometimes I'll get into my head and I'll start saying these things and maybe my analogies are off. So I want to make sure that I'm clear about that. Some people are afraid, well, yeah, how do I take this action? Like, how is this going to be? And we don't want to take action because it's going to be uncomfortable. But I got some really good news. And that is that it's only uncomfortable because of the information that you hold. Okay, everything in your brain prompts thoughts first. which then prompt the uncomfortable feelings. It's no longer uncomfortable once the thoughts change, but we can't change those thoughts. That's the hardest. That's like helping someone come back from heroin. It's the hardest thing to change the thoughts, the negative thoughts. We don't have control of them popping into our head. We have control over whether we listen to them or not, whether we learn to counter them, but we can't, learning to change, how do we turn them off is really hard. We just learn to ignore them or live with them. But if you want to change those thoughts that are directing your brain, that are making change so uncomfortable, you've got to add more information to your brain. And you don't feel, it's like a domino effect. It changes your thoughts, which changes the uncomfortable feelings. Does that make sense? So it's just where you're looking. It's just what you're doing to change. Knowledge, you guys, heals pain and suffering. I am living proof. I can't even tell you the surmountable amount of pain and suffering I've overcome. I can share, stories and lessons about my life, and I know that it impacts people to hear, but I don't feel that level of pain at all. And I'll tell you why. Knowledge, I learn, I research, I read, and it's learning the right stuff, which is, for me, I had all these negative thoughts. Where do I need to go? What do I need to study? I needed to study the place the thoughts were coming from, my brain. I needed to understand, if I want to be informed differently, if I want to get rid of these thoughts, where are the thoughts coming from? They're in my memory network. I got to add more information. I got to figure out, how do we change that? Oh, I'm sorry, Dex, that your therapist told you to just get over it. Not a good therapist. But listen, therapy doesn't just happen in session, it happens in the world. And I can't emphasize enough that if it feels hard, if change feels hard, if habits are hard to break, learn about the way you think. Challenge what you know. Don't be that person that says, yeah, that is the case for everybody else, but not me. Why? Why is it the case for everyone else, not for you? Constantly be aware of your perception. That's one way to do it. Creating self-awareness. It's becoming aware, waking up. And that's really what I'm all about, is waking people up so they understand what's going on and how to make these changes. So, let me block this person. So if you want to do things differently, if you want to have control over your life, if you don't want that transmission to overheat and crack, and now your steering wheel is stuck and you're going, nowhere fast and you're about to crash, then you've got to add to the most important part of everything you do, and that's your brain. It's like I said, it's not Google. If you had all the information, for those that say, yeah, I've already done this, or I knew all of this, my life coach told me everything, and I don't need to know anything more. And trust me, if that were the case, you would be doing things differently because your brain would inform you to do things differently. So if it's not happening, if that's not happening, then you've got to learn more. So, creating awareness is one way, learning about the brain. Now, this is something that I am going to be launching in probably, sometime later next week. So, I'm not going to be sharing about in session yet because I'm adding again to it and I'm revamping it, putting it on a new site. But I'm going to give that to you soon. You can go to drmcayla.com / I think it's informative. Leave your email if you want to get on that list, because what I'm talking about in terms of adding oil to the motor is in my in-session program. It's all about what your brain is doing on your behalf and what you need to do to rewire it. You can't just pick and pull from different places and think it's going to change the wire in your brain, because just like when you try to hot wire a car, not that I have, but if you don't get the right wires, it's not going to start. Your brain is full of wiring. You've got to get every wire. The two wires that matter the most have got to link up. That's crucial, or you can't rewire your brain. It's not going to happen. So there's a very specific formula to doing that. So if you want to get on that mailing list, the email list, go to drmcayla.com/informed. My site's being revamped, so there's just that email catcher there. And over the course of the rest of this week, tomorrow, perhaps over the weekend, and all next week, I'm going to be talking more about some of the things that you got to know if you want to make changes, if you want to get out of the stuck place and you don't want to deal with the pain and suffering. I've got the best medicine in the world for you. And for those people that have known me, you've heard my story or stories. And the reason why I am the way I am, I feel the way I feel, it's just learning. It's just knowledge. That's all I did. And it was learning, where do I need to go to change things, to fix things, and it's all up here. So that's it. So please tune in, share this again with anybody you know who's going to really be benefiting from these scopes over the next 3, 4, 5 days. How do you get over people who've done you wrong? Everything that's difficult for you, because I could go into all those little pockets, but everything that's difficult for you, you've got to add more information about it. Meaning you've got to learn, we can't forgive unless we perhaps go through the emotion of anger. Well, how does forgiveness actually happen? How do we deal with anger exactly the right way? Is anger going out and punching a punching bag? That gets the energy out, but that's not really addressing or honoring anger. There's all sorts of things that we don't know. Now, here's what's great is with normal behavioral changes, you've got to learn this stuff and then you got to put it to action. And that sucks because then we got to remember everything. And, I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of hard drive space left. So I can't be remembering all these things. But if you just put the oil in the motor, it will do it itself. You just have to put it in there. It's no different. Our brains are so amazing. It's no different than memories that we can't remember. Time. You look back on your past and you've got maybe this span of time. You may not remember, but your brain retains all of your memories. And they're still there whether you remember it or not. You just got to put the information in there so that you know it, it's there, and your brain will start doing the rest. Okay, so any other questions before I hop off? I hope this was helpful for some of you out there. I hope that this is going to be a helpful week. I hope you'll join me for the next 4 or 5 days. Application requires a lot of work. Yes, it does suck. This is a much easier solution. Just add the information. It's just what I did. It's what I did. And there's no way I could have overcome, I think, all of the things I've been through had I not started to refocus myself in this way. Go to the most important tool. The real Camille, you are so welcome. Thank you for being here. My daughter, how to offer. So in terms of that question, how to offer, is it offer these changes to your daughter? Is it to make the changes? Here's the best answer I can give you. Her brain's no different. All of our brains, they're the same. What you learn, those little bits of information, because that's what forms in our brains, little packages of information that hold affect, sensation, thoughts, beliefs, little packages. So as you learn this information, you share bits of information with your kids, little bits of information, and that's going to make a big difference. Another way is when you change, when you begin to change, as your brain starts informing you differently, as you go and rewire so that you're responding differently, that's going to also impact your kids. And they're going to learn just from watching you too. So change yourself first. If you have kids that you want to, the best way to help your kids is change yourself. How do I change my thinking? Well, I just kind of addressed it in this broadcast, which is add bits of information about the way your brain works. All of that's going to be in my in-session program, but changing your thinking to begin with, what you can do on your own, okay? What you can take and do on your own and do it every day is you're adding bits of information every time you challenge hardcore ingrained beliefs that you have. And I'm not saying it's something you're trying to make yourself. All I'm saying is we can't force ourselves or convince ourselves to believe something different, but we can start thinking about, I wonder, what if I really were truly amazing? Like, what if that were true? Like, what if all these years I have been believing I'm not? Just what if it were true? Or what if I actually were good enough and all this time I thought I wasn't? It's just stalking your perception, thinking about the way you think. And that your brain gives itself permission to grow when you do that. So that's what you can be doing on your own. Start challenging the way you think. Don't be that client that does this. Well, I'm not going to sit here and you're not going to make me believe something different because I know what I feel and this is where I am. And if that's the case, you do yourself a disservice. Nobody's saying that you can convince yourself to believe something different, but by challenging the way you think, looking at things, looking at possibilities, could this really be true or could this not be true? That empowers your brain, gives itself permission to grow, and that's what you want. We just want to work on that motor, and the motor will do its job in our lives. And the direction in which we steer our lives will change. We won't go straight with that frozen steering wheel into the corner, into a curb, or into another car like I did. So any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to jump off. Again, if you want to get on that list for In Session, which I'll be offering, I'm really excited. Probably the end of next week, and go to drmcayla.com/informed, and that way you don't miss out on that. Otherwise, I will see you here. I'll see you here tomorrow or this weekend, next week, and we'll just keep going. If you have any other questions, please feel free to always throw those out there for me. I want to make sure that I can address them. So have an amazing weekend. Love you guys. Thanks for joining. And for now, here's to living.